constituencies spread over 20 districts have cast their ballot through the day in the second phase of polling, rounding off a high-stakes contest that's seen intense rallies, sharp political messaging and heavy turnout in several regions. Shortly from now, we will get you the most accurate and most extensive poll numbers on Bihar Assembly elections too. But first up, a quick check on the voter turnout, where phase 1, if that was a record at 65%, phase 2 is a record in itself, because till 5 p.m. it's already touched 67.14% turnout, and that will be only revised upwards by the time polls close around 6 p.m. till the last person in the line is allowed to cast their ballot, and those numbers could touch nearly 70%. Now 70% in this entire Simanchal region, largely these two U's, the 2C of the phase, the shape, the borderline areas, and there to have such high turnouts, what does the implication of this? Is this a one-way swing for the incumbent, or is there an anti-wave? There are those who have gone down to Bihar, there are others who have spoken to analysts and spoken to Biharis, spread all across. The migrant voter base, all of these aspects come into play. Zaka Jacob with us, Rahul Shivshankar with us, Nistula Hebar, Rashid Kidwai and Rahul Verma with us here in the studio, along with our reporters also. We'll go across to them. Before we bring it inside here, just quickly going across to Arun Dhanta on ground. Oh, we'll go to him in a bit. Zaka Jacob, the numbers, how are they? Second phase, is this looking record?
I know we make a lot out of voter turnout data on the day the polls close, on the day of the exit polls, and then on counting day everybody forgets about it. But for whatever it's worth, it is a record turnout in Bihar. So this is the historical data that we have. So 2025, the first phase was 65%. Today we have 67% till 5 p.m. And I think, Anand, you're right, it could go up to 70%, maybe even upwards of 70%. So what we're effectively looking at is, somewhere in the high 60s, maybe 68 or 69% voter turnout eventually in the state of Bihar, which means if we end up with 68, 69, closer to 70% voter turnout in Bihar, that would be the highest that we've seen certainly in the last 25 years. The lowest was 46.5%, less than half in the year 2005. That, by the way, was the first election that Nitish Kumar won and became chief minister. It has been on an upward spiral ever since, 52, 56, 57. But this one would be a record. This would be a record. It would be higher than even, the ones that we saw when Lalu Prasad Yadav was in power in the 1990s. Of course, the familiar adage in Bihar at that time was a lot of it was ballot stuffing. But for the first time, I think we are looking at, 7 out of 10 voters coming out and voting in a state like Bihar in a free, fair, and may I say, entirely violence-free election. I think that's a great testimony.
Largely incident-free, violence-free election. Before we take it to the seated guests, along with our, of course, good friend on Take 3, Rahul Shivshankar, consulting editor 2. We'll go to him in a bit. Just quickly going across to Arun Dhata to understand and get a pulse of what happened on ground. Arun, what's the feeling on ground in terms of voter turnout? Are people saying this is unprecedented? Is it record tod?
Well, absolutely, Anand. I was in Simanchal region, as you were discussing, that it has a significant, political importance of that area. Of course, I was in two areas where I traveled today, Purnia and Katihar, and I could see the enthusiasm amongst the voters while they were standing. And thanks, of course, to the Election Commission, the way they conducted and the facilities which they provided to the voters in these areas. And therefore, in fact, the major issues which I found, because remember, Anand, 24 seats are very, very crucial in this area, in Simanchal region. And in 2012, NDA performed well by winning 12 seats. There was a polarization which worked in their favor. This time around, what is going to happen? Because see, Prime Minister Modi, Amit Shah, Yogi Adityanath, Rahul Gandhi, all of them, campaigned in this area very aggressively. The pitch of Prime Minister and Home Minister was about infiltration, demography change. And one thing that I have found, Anand, quickly, when I was speaking to the voters there, I felt this, the young voters, especially the girls who are studying there in the college, they're saying that law and order is a biggest catch for the voters. That they're saying that they can roam around in the evening, in the night these days. And also importantly, jobs and migration. These two are also issues in which, if you remember that the airport which has been inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi 2 months back. That is also helping a lot. I spoke to a gentleman. He is working in IT sector in Bangalore. He said, I took 3 times flight from Purnia to Karnataka. So that is also a big boost. And also importantly, Makhana board, which has been established by central government. That is something which is giving high hopes to the people there, because the infrastructure and the facilities around that will increase. Remember that Purnia and Katiyar
are a huge impetus to the farmer there in Bihar. Corn itself being used for the production of ethanol, Makhana board, and the cost of Makhana itself has risen more than 300 times, many people are saying, or at least 30 times if I were to discount that claim. But it's to huge profits, because that entire belt is the only one where these foxnuts grow in such large numbers, and this Makhana board is a big fillip, plus infrastructure. But all that matters. Rahul Shivshankar, as you take this forward, would you look at the percentage or would you want to look at the absolute numbers? Because the base of voters also comes down by 42 lakh this time.
Yeah, of course, many people will say that this is a statistical illusion, but I think this goes beyond that. I think it also suggests that there has been, on both sides, an ability to reach out to their core base and bring them out to vote, which will hold obviously some significance in the end result as it is tabulated. Of course, the result before the result will be out in about 15-20 minutes, and one is very excited to see what's happening. The Satta Bazaar, as we know, the last few days has been veering more and more towards the NDA, and one always says follow the money, but on this particular channel we won't be doing that. We'll be following hardcore political instincts, as well as, of course, the data which will be revealed by the Election Commission. But fundamentally, I think that this particular turnout means that both sides have been able to rouse their voters out of any sense of ennui. That was half the problem in the last election, if you remember, for the NDA. They couldn't sort of bring some of their voters out. That's what we were told. The RSS didn't really take part in the campaign in a manner that it should have. Here, things have changed. So one doesn't know, are these only NDA voters coming out to prove a point? Remember, this particular phase has a predominance of Muslim Yadav voters in a large number of seats. And we've done the maths earlier. We'd in fact discussed this over the last 2 or 3 days. So fundamentally, I think that this is a very, very important statistic. One can't ignore it. And I think it will have an impact in the end analysis.
Right. Nalin Mehta also joins us. So Nistula, starting with you, your thoughts. What's going to be your key takeaway for this election, or what is perhaps the one factor that would change it? The Satta Bazaar is actually saying the Congress will get less than 19 seats. There are 13 to 15 seats for the Congress. The JDU is supposed to have a far better strike rate than 2020. Yeah.
See, from the beginning, and I went to Bihar quite early on, even before the seat adjustment had been announced, and I'd spent some time there. I spoke to women voters and certain groups which were very crucial to different alliances, different parties. And the one thing that I found was that it was Nitish Kumar who was the fulcrum of this election. You see, his health, his ill health, whether or not this is going to be his last election, whether his supporters and the electorate in Bihar is in a mood to give him a good, rousing farewell or consign him, to history. That was the question that is to be decided by this election, because he initiated a conversation, political conversation in 2005. He became the balancing factor between socialism and Hindutva in Bihar. And that conversation has continued. This is the last election of that conversation. I feel that beyond this, whatever that Nitish had been talking about, of getting over Jungle Raj, etc., that conversation ends now. You'll have to go beyond. The parties that will be competing in 2030 will have to go beyond that. So Nitish Kumar was both, as I said, the meta-narrative and the subtext of this election.
Nitish Kumar. Nalin Babu, agree, disagree?
So, one of the things that has been very unusual for me in tracking this election has been that when we look at our readership metrics, in this election, unlike others, there's been very little readership interest. That to me is surprising, because it kind of, when that happens, it tells you that a lot of people are expecting more of the same. There's very high interest in election where you expect a huge, satta parivartan and all of that. So that's one thing, but that may not mean much. My sense of this election is that if you look at the campaign and if you look at the issues that were raised, The issue is that Bihar has basically been in the same boat for the last 20, 25 years. And I think there's nothing new in this campaign. There's no X factor, no matter how much Prashant Kishore might say. The fact of the matter is for most of the voters is more of the same ho-hum. So, it's like there's no X factor which can change the game. And that, I think, is the big problem for Bihar voters in this
So how
election.
do you square that with the record voter turnout, as we were saying? I mean, just before we came, at 5 p.m. it's 67%, go up to 70%. So clearly something is happening for the people to come out.
Looking at previous elections when votership data has gone up, physiologically, the evidence on that is very mixed. There is no evidence to show that high voter turnout necessarily means, which was the older conventional wisdom. It means that it's an anti-incumbency vote. There is no evidence to show that. It's actually 50-50. So it could well be that the election matters to people. The election matters to people because in Bihar, the state is what defines most of what people's jobs are, right? Or you migrate. Now, therefore, it might matter, but it is within an older fixed boundary, if you like, of the players.
Right. Umesh Jha, cephalogist, and Sandeep Shastri, National Coordinator, Lokniti Network, also with us. But first to the gents who are sitting in the middle. Rashid Kidwai, Rahul Verma. What do you think, Rashid?
Anand, first of all, I beg to disagree a bit. There is no direct correlation between the personal popularity of a leader and the outcome or, the election verdict. You look at Naveen Patnaik, you look at Amrinder Singh, you look at Atal Bihari Vajpayee of 2004. Very high popular rating, singular, one leader kind of thing. But the outcome was very different.
That's
Some would say about
Mr. Modi. Mr. Modi is personally very popular,
absolutely.
and therefore there is a Modi effect.
Election.
I mean, when he's on the ticket, there's a 10% bump up.
Absolutely. So therefore, I think, I give a lot of, importance to the vote percentage, but it's very welcoming for democracy. It may mean the kind of region and the demographic profile that Rahul Shivshankar was talking about. I think this rise 70% plus would signify, I would lean towards, Bihar heading for a big change.
Big change, a big change, or perhaps or reiteration that we are happy with where we are. Why fix what is not
Rahul
broken?
had an interesting theory, I think the last time he came on air, as to why the voting percentage is increasing.
So let me make 3 points. One, I think this is a historical turnout, right? So
Is it?
Yeah, because look at the data. If it 65 itself is highest ever, and what you are also going to see is greater. So the second phase always in Bihar for last 5 elections had higher turnout,
Right.
and so you will always also have greater turnout gap between men and women. So women are likely to turn out more. So that's a fact about Bihar. Now, I think where I agree with Nistula, in some ways, see what is unique about this election, that this election is going to mark a historical closure to 35 years of politics of Lalu and Nitish, right? And in that sense, what might be happening is basically what Rahul Shivshankar said, is mobilization from both angles. So it's largely, again, not illusion, statistical effect, but also, I think, a mobilization effect where...
But in this case, what happens is this time around, Nitish Babu has been at the forefront along with PM Modi as far as the NDA campaign is concerned. But Laluji has become a small side effect amidst when Tejasvi has been projected.
Also, Anand, don't forget, Laluji was in jail, incarcerated. So it was Tejasvi's campaign even last time. I just feel that here, there has been obviously some amount of traction in the messaging. There are people, and PK and the number of people that he attracted tells you that there is space for an alternative narrative. Now, whether these people trust Tejasvi Yadav, Rahul Gandhi, that combination to be the change, I don't know about that. And whether there has been a counter mobilization, 2 things I've told you. People have stopped reading your editorials. They have come out there and they are voting. Number two, all the trains.
He didn't need you to say that on TV, man.
I'm just kidding. All the trains.
My editorial, your editorial. I mean
He's
politics,
always
political reading as a
dedicated
whole.
newspapers with a newspaper in front
People
of
have
him.
stopped reading.
All
Let's just
the-
put it
all
that
the-
way.
No, one thing.
People
All
continue
the
to vote,
trains,
but
all the trains that were supposed to have been sort of not plied have obviously got the people.
No, not
to
just
vote.
got the people. They've stayed back, and Bihar voter makes the effort to go back. Just one sec. We got Rajiv Pratap Rudy also joining us along with Sandeep Shastri and Umesh Jha. Let's go across to them. Rajiv Rudy जी, आप तो बड़ी ऊंची उड़ान भर रहे हैं, पर आप ये बताइए कि सिवान और बिहार में कब आ?
सब ठीक बा.
सब ठीक बा.
Sab ठीक बा. I was listening to all of you, and of course, you are talking about the voters' turnout, and of course, the first phase and the second phase. But I would like to remind you, this second phase of polling, wherever it is taking place, predominantly has been a bastion for the NDA. Now, if you want to say that this extra polling or extra polling is basically because there could be a change, I think it is reiteration or maybe validation of the existing government, the combination. This is my presumption, and I believe in it very strongly. When you're talking about Prashant Kishore creating upheavals, I would just like to clarify one thing, which most of you may have missed, or maybe a point which I have been adding throughout my discussions across, that you see for last 1 year, the space of the opposition, which should have been Rashtriya Janata Dal and Congress